I was constantly asking myself one question: should I quit or should I continue with my podcast? What's up, folks? Welcome back to the Quarter Life Crisis podcast, a weekly podcast in which we talk about the most confusing time of your life. No, it's not puberty, it's your 20s. And just in case you're new here, my name's Ryan, and in this podcast, I try and make sense of everything in my 20s, ultimately with the goal of building a life I love. Now, it's been a little while since I posted my last podcast, but there have been some wild changes in my life, and in this video, I'm going to explain exactly why I needed some time off. And one of the main changes in my life is that we decided to invest our life savings into buying a caravan. And over the next few months, we will be documenting the entire process from buying one to eventually setting off to travel around Europe. But first things first, I'm back. And after my recent absence, I figured I would explain why exactly I needed some time off. I found myself at a crossroads where I was constantly asking myself one question: should I quit or should I continue with my podcast? Now, it may sound silly to say, but coming back to this podcast wasn't easy. I was kind of worried about being judged, and I was battled by a constant combination of imposter syndrome versus the spotlight effect. I constantly asked myself the question, who the heck do I think I am to talk about this? And then the spotlight effect is the psychological phenomenon that people tend to believe they are being noticed more than they actually are. I thought that everyone was thinking about me when in reality, maybe except for my grandma, nobody really was. So when you combine the two, the seemingly endless conversation in my head sounded a little like this. Ryan, look man, you have to go back. People are waiting on your content. If you don't send them anything, then they'll stop following you. Dude, you have nothing to talk about anyway. No one wants to listen to your advice. I mean, you're not even credible. Maybe, but if you wait any longer, they'll definitely not listen to you. No one was listening anyway. You might as well sneak out the door right now with his head bowed down so no one notices. So how did I get over this? Well, the simple answer is committing to the thought that I don't have a plan B. Throughout the whole of the last year, I was living on the notion that if the podcast doesn't work out, I can always find a good job. And kind of setting myself up for that experience allowed me to not fully commit to the process. So when I assumed that I don't have a plan B, that this is the only thing I'm gonna do, I started looking at my struggles and my problems differently. And I started looking at the root issues of the things that bring me the stress and that cause me to think about wanting to quit every 2 months. And I realized at the root of everything was my fear of financial instability, struggling to know if sponsors would extend or not, if my following was growing quick enough to get on new sponsors. And by naming the root problem, by really getting to understand what it is that brought me the stress, I realized that I could solve it. Because if money is my problem, then there must be something wrong with my business model. There's a reason why there's no money coming in. So what are ways that we can make sure money comes in? Because what I also realized is that while I may not be a gazillionaire just yet, who talks to celebrities every second day, I am, however, living through all of the challenges that you and I are going through. And I don't know about you, but those challenges bring another million questions with it. How do you balance ambition and fun? How do you achieve financial freedom? Why does purpose matter? How do you maintain relationships after university? How do you meet new people outside of your job? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still figuring things out, just like I imagine you are. But I realized that this is what drastically separates me from a Stephen Bartlett or a Joe Rogan. Because they are so far ahead of us that their realities seem way too far away from ours for us to truly embody the advice that they give. So while I may not have all the answers, in fact, I certainly don't, I can, however, tell you that I'm pretty sure we're going through the same struggle. And on this podcast, we'll explore the principal strategies and tools to help you cope with your quarter life crisis. And we try and focus these conversations around 3 pillars: health, wealth, and well-being, with the idea of focusing on one main core concept. And it's a quote by Jimmy Carr: "The purpose of life is to enjoy the passing of time." Now, my goal is to maximize the things that bring me happiness or joy and minimize the things that don't, ultimately to enjoy the passing of time. But most importantly, at the end of the day, it's worth remembering that there's no right or wrong ways to figure out your 20s. So what I'm going to do is just go about my day interviewing these amazing experts, and I'd encourage you to take from it whatever you can that fits your current situation. Now, I came back despite my doubts and fears because I need answers to questions, and I think you do too. So I'm here to tell you, you're not alone on this journey. I'm in it with you, and hopefully together we can create a community that supports each other. I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.